It's funny. We spent so much of our lives learning, learning how to leave. We leave for college, for a job, for these bigger opportunities.
Hmm.
And the second we do, we kind of perform this strange mental trick. We freeze frame home. It
Right.
becomes this perfect static picture in our minds.
It's a coping mechanism, really. I mean, you have to. You're already dealing with so much stress in the new place, a new city, a new job.
Right.
So holding on to that perfect, unchanging memory of home is just easier. It's simpler than thinking about the reality, which is that life is moving on there too. You basically turn your hometown into a museum of you.
But the museum,
Hmm.
it goes and changes the exhibits on you.
Uh,
So what happens when you finally go back years later, you're walking down your old street feeling all nostalgic, and then bam, the banyan tree you climbed as a kid is just a parking lot.
or your favorite bakery is now a vape shop.
Exactly. And that feeling of disorientation just hits you.
It's so crucial, that feeling, because you were expecting a reunion, a hug, right? But what you get feels more like an eviction notice from your own past. You feel like a ghost haunting a life that used to be yours.
That's the tragedy of it. While you were away changing, your home just, it moved on without you.
And that's our deep dive today. That invisible feeling, the sense that you're suddenly a foreigner in the one place that's supposed to know you best. We're going to unpack the friction points, the personal, the economic, the physical, that happen when you try to go home again.
And we should probably start where it hurts the most, right? The personal stuff.
The personal sphere, specifically that slow, painful realization that you've outgrown the people you love.
Okay, so let's get into that first pillar. We're calling it the time capsule friendship, I think. I think almost everyone who leaves has this experience. You meet up with your high school best friend.
Yeah.
And the first few minutes are just pure joy. You fall right into that do you remember when
Yeah.
loop.
Oh, absolutely. The first, 20, maybe 30 minutes are just gold. You're reliving old pranks, making fun of teachers, throwing around inside jokes that nobody else on the planet would understand.
It's like a warm blanket. It feels like no time has passed at all.
Not a
But
second.
then that blanket starts to feel a little thin, maybe around the 35-minute mark.
Yeah.
You try to pivot the conversation. You try to talk about your life now.
Right. You want to talk about this complex project you're managing at work or some book that completely changed how you see things.
And you see it happen. Their eyes just glaze over.
It's not malicious. It's not that they don't care about you. It's just the gap is suddenly so wide. Your present reality doesn't connect with their frame of reference anymore.
And the realization hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah,
You only share a past now. You don't share a present.
exactly. And that leads to this really difficult insight.
The guilt.
The guilt, yeah. The guilt of feeling bored by the very people who basically built you. It's a terrible feeling, almost like shame.
But, it's important to see the other side of that coin, too. Because the friction isn't just coming from the returnee.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Think about the friend who stayed. They often feel this huge and completely justified resentment.
Tell me more about that. We don't often talk about that side.
Well, from their perspective, when you start talking about your complex job or your worldview shift, it doesn't always sound like sharing. Sometimes it can sound like a quiet judgment.
Oh, I see.
The subtext they hear is, you left, you got out, and now you're back, expecting me to be impressed while I was here holding down the fort, dealing with real life. That resentment builds a wall just as quickly as the boredom does.
So either way, the old relationship just doesn't fit anymore. And that dynamic, that regression, it gets 1,000 times more intense when you go from friends to family.
Oh, yes. Welcome to what we call the golden cage. The moment you walk back into your parents' house and your adulthood just evaporates.
Let's lay out the scenario because it's so specific. Imagine this. You're 30 years old. You manage a whole team at work. You pay a mortgage. You are a fully independent adult by any measure.
A functioning member of society. You're home for a 2-week visit.
And the second you step over that threshold, you're not that person anymore. You are a teenager again.
And you get the classic curfew clash.
Yes. You're out for dinner. It's 9 o'clock and the phone rings. Where are you? Who are you with? What time will you be home?
The house rules are static. They haven't changed, even though you have, fundamentally.
And the psychological whiplash is just, it's immense. You're fighting against decades of ingrained habit. For your parents, it's coming from a place of love, of course.
Of course. But for you, the adult child, it feels like control. It feels suffocating. You're trapped, trying to prove you're independent to the only people in the world who still see you as a kid.
The energy it takes just to say, Mom, I'm a grown-up. I don't need to check in. It's exhausting. You're literally fighting a ghost of your former self.
And it's hard on the parent, too. Their whole identity as a caregiver is wrapped up in, well, in monitoring you. So letting go feels like a failure on their part. It's just two well-meaning people stuck in a contract that expired years ago.
So if that emotional friction isn't enough to deal with, let's move on to the external stuff. The economic reality that just slaps you in the face. The ATM syndrome.
This might be the thickest wall of all. It's based on one simple and often wrong assumption. Because you left for the big city, for another country, you are automatically rich.
Regardless of your actual student debt or your crazy rent, you basically wear the price of leaving.
And you see it play out in the most classic scenario, the dinner bill.
Right. You're out with cousins, old friends, had a great time. The bill comes.
Yeah.
And then silence.
A very distinct, very awkward silence. Everyone just kind of looks down and they're all waiting for you, the guest, to pick it up.
Because you're the one who made it.
And it's not just dinner. The expectations can scale up. You're suddenly expected to help fund a wedding or pay for a medical bill for a distant relative. You become the family's financial backstop.
You stop being a person and start being a walking wallet. And that changes every single interaction you have. There's always that subtext.
And what's really heartbreaking is the internal conflict it causes for you, the returnee. You're desperate to say, hey, I struggle with rent too. My salary disappears the second I pay my bills.
But you can't.
You can't, because it would sound ungrateful. It would sound like you're complaining about the very opportunity everyone thinks you're so lucky to have. So you just stay silent.
And you have to perform this role of the successful migrant, even if it's draining your savings account. You can't break character.
Exactly. And that silence, that performance, it just keeps you isolated. It prevents any real connection, which is the one thing you came home for.
Okay, let's shift from the economic to the physical.
Yeah.
The last external force. The erasure of geography. This is when the map in your head just doesn't match the ground under your feet.
We mentioned the missing banyan tree earlier, but it goes so much deeper than that. It usually starts with this real excitement, this desire to share a piece of your past.
The missing landmark scenario. It's so painful because you're usually with someone else, your partner, your kids. You want to show them a special place.
Right here, you say, this is the field where we played cricket every single day. Or, this was the little cinema where I saw my first movie.
You drive there full of stories, ready to share this memory. And it's a giant generic apartment complex.
Yeah.
Or a strip mall.
And your first reaction is just denial. You're driving around the block again saying, no, wait, it must be here. I know it was right here.
And then comes the grief. Because that change, that modernization, it feels like a personal attack. It feels like someone came and deliberately destroyed the evidence of your childhood.
That's it exactly. That field wasn't just a piece of land. It was the physical proof of a memory, a part of your identity. We have this completely unreasonable expectation that our hometowns will just stay frozen in time for us.
Like a museum.
Yeah. A museum of our memories, yeah. And when they change, we feel this anger, this disorientation, even if that change brought jobs and made life better for the people who actually live there.
You're mourning the loss of a past self you can no longer physically point to.
That's powerful. The outside world keeps moving, but the internal picture of home that we carry is just static, idealized.
Which brings us perfectly to our last segment. We have to talk about the psychology behind all this. We need to do a rose-tinted glasses check.
We have to expose the lie of nostalgia.
Okay, so let's put this to you, the listener. Think about that one thing you fantasized about when you were away. What did you crave most about home?
It was probably a direct response to whatever was stressing you out, right? If you were stuck in traffic all day, you dreamed of the peace and quiet of your village.
That was the fantasy. That was the idealized image that got you through the hard days.
But the sources we looked at show that the collision between that fantasy and the actual reality of being back is, well, it's often brutal.
You dreamed of the quiet village. You got there, and the silence drove you insane within 48 hours. You missed the noise, the energy, the options of the city.
That sharp contrast. That is the lie of nostalgia being exposed. When you were away, you were mentally editing your memories. You were minimizing all the bad stuff about home, the lack of opportunity, the gossip, and maximizing the good stuff.
You weren't dreaming of the real place. You were dreaming of a feeling, an idealized state of mind that was only possible because you were far away from it.
The dream home you built in your head was always going to be better than the real thing because the dream couldn't change. It couldn't disappoint you.
And the reality? inevitably does both.
It all just seems to boil down to a failure to accept that everyone and everything changes.
Absolutely. Which reminds me of that famous quote from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus,
No man ever steps in the same river twice.
for it's not the same river and he's not the same man.
That really is the perfect summary. The river, your hometown, has changed. And the man, or woman, the person returning, has changed even more.
So returning home is this really complicated act of forgiveness. You have to forgive your hometown for not waiting for you.
For not being a perfect museum, and maybe this is the hardest part, you have to forgive yourself for outgrowing it.
And except that home can't be a dot on a map anymore.
It has to become something else, a feeling you carry inside you wherever you go. That's the only way to move forward.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a quick thought experiment. I want you to think about your grandmother's signature dish.
Okay.
Maybe it's a special kind of pickle, or a chicken curry that only she gets right, or some holiday cake that just defines that time of year for you.
Can you make it? Exactly like she does. And I don't mean looking up a recipe online. I mean, do you know the feel of it? The exact moment to add the salt, the technique that's all in her hands.
Because here's the hard, slightly terrifying truth. Recipes are mortal.
Oof.
If that specific flavor isn't passed down hand to hand, that piece of your family history,
Yeah.
it will go extinct the moment she takes her last breath. It will be gone forever.
We just don't think about the threat to that kind of heritage until it's way too late.
So next week, that's what our deep dive is all about. We're talking food, family, and the terrifying risk of losing our culinary heritage. Do yourself a favor. Don't eat before you listen. We'll see you next time.